My name is Anthony Gallagher. They call me Shaky. To begin with, I was born very young and started with the Pennsylvania Railroad as a brakeman out of Phillipsburg. You could give your resume.
Well, I'm Norman Cole, Senior, and I started on the Lehigh Valley June the 20th, 1941. I was the youngest brakeman and youngest employee in the train service at that time. A friend told me when they was hiring on the valley if I should go over and put my name in, which I did, and I was told to come back the next morning, and then we got slips to go to the company doctor to be examined, and the following day I was sent to Bethlehem to start my trial trips. Anything that come up that I could get a day's work out of, I signed up for it, and I qualified for passenger service. I qualified as a freight conductor and a passenger conductor, and I went yard mastering in 1954, and I gave it up in 1955 because I could make more money out over the road, and I didn't have to take a lot of guff. And after I retired, I spent some time down with the Black River, and I was up at Steamtown for 5 years running the tour train up there.
That was in Scranton,
Yeah,
right?
I was in Scranton, but I enjoyed it. It was steam. When the diesels come, I don't know. The thrill was gone. There was just something about it, an exhaust of an engine. I don't know. There was a rhythm to it, and every engineer, Tony will vouch for that, ran an engine different. Some would abuse the fireman, and some it was like laying off. Are you right, Tony?
That's right. That's the way he operated the engine.
If he abused the engine and didn't have it, the reverse lever, if that wasn't set properly and the throttle wasn't set properly, that could kill the fireman.
Howard, a wonderful man, but he abused an engine.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was a hard man. If you didn't stay ahead of him as a fireman, you were way behind him. He lost you. He used to say, "Now, fill up them back corners, Anthony." Because if you didn't, there was a big hole there when he started.
Yeah.
He ripped it all out.
Some of those fellows that, they get more out of an engine, and they
Easier.
And easier is right.
Yeah.
Just like Sticky the Mass, he ran from Oak Island to Lehigh when out taking water, and Sticky was a good man to work for, right?
Oh yeah.
And Johnny Keys called me, and he said, "Sticky," he said, "you're going to run the job tonight. Harry's off, and you're the old fireman, and you got a brand new fireman on a week." Anyway, I went down that night to Oak Island. I went in the crew dispatcher's office, and Johnny says, "Here's your slips. Paul O'Brien's your conductor, and you're going to have a manifest out here." So I went back in the crew dispatch, or back in the dugout, and this young man come towards me. He was 18 years old, same as I was when I went firing.
Yeah.
He said, "You're Sticky?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to fire for you tonight." And I said, "You are?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Only been on a week?" He said, "I never on a T engine," he said. So that time Paul came over to me, Paul O'Brien. He said, "Now, we're not sure. We think there's the next three out of East tonight, advance. And if they are, we ain't going to stop. No stop." And his right loud looks like 52 cars. So I said, come on early, we'll go out on the engine. And I said to the brakeman out the plug, I said, top her off. And the boiler was full.
Yeah.
So we went out, got up the engine, fire was good shape. Nice, I said, told him what to do, leveled her off. I said, don't touch the valves, they're all set. Should be all set. And I said, don't get excited, don't get it, I'm right here with you. And I said, this brakeman, he knows the score. Yeah, I know him too, he said, of course he knows him, you know.
Yeah.
So we got organized, we moseyed out, went up the transfer, got up there, backed in, and yard master come out, coupled up, you're ready to go, no stops. So I said to the brakeman, you sat in the front seat, you know, 2 seats, you know. I said, so you can keep your eyes skint. And I said, show him much as you can, but you keep your eye out. And I said, I'll keep my eye out after you get it going. So we got the airman come up, said, everything okay? O'Brien's back in the hack? Okay. Toot toot. Out of the yard, on up out of the yard, went by Newark Tower, everybody was waving. Well, got that son of a bitch going. That was a Baldwin. The T1s was Baldwins and the T2s was American.
5100 and something.
51.8. So we was moseying right along. Christ, a mile went by, you know. God damn, I thought, Christ, we're gone. Had her hooked up purred like a kitten. Kept her right up her half a boiler of water. I didn't have to shut the pump off at all. So the way we went, Jesus Christ, we went up the hill faster than number 7 ever went. Down the other side, going down into Bloomsbury, I tied the tank, half a tank. Christ, I go to Buffalo, that much water yet. Come up through East, and they was all waving, went up by Florence. The whole crew was out there, the yard crew, Dory, that whole gang was waving, doing holler. Paul Kurt says, stay away from the sticky, if he'll make a good run if he don't go in the river. 2 hours and 6 minutes. Never made a stop.
Well, the dispatcher made the remark that he was making a wonderful run if he stayed on the track. You know, we had jobs that was 2 days, and we had passenger jobs that kept us away 3 days, from New York to Buffalo and back, and a round trip would be 3 days. We would deadhead to New York, like for number 7, which left New York, I think, around 7:30 at night. And you would run to Buffalo, and that would be 452 miles. And we got in up there somewhere around, I believe it was around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I forget. That's way back in the 40s, 50s, and the train's passenger service went out, I think it was 63. But then we'd lay over there and get our rest, and we'd come out that night. And the following morning, we would come down on number 4, and that was the first passenger train into New York. And then we'd have to wait for the Diamond, which left down New York around 10 o'clock in the morning, to come home. So it was 3 days from the time we left to the time we got back. But we always liked those jobs because it was good pay.
One thing about being a railroader, you had to have a good woman at home.
Yep.
Because they raised a family. You were gone most of the time. Right, Norm?
Yep. Yes, sir. I met a lot of interesting people on the train, on passenger service. Hedda Hopper, I don't know whether you fellows remember hearing that name. And they had a special train touring the state of Pennsylvania. And they had people that was in the limelight on the train. And then we'd stop at different places, and then those people would come out and say a few words about one of the things Hedda Hopper said. They named a railroad car after me. She said, the hopper car that carries the coal. And so Paul Barker was with me that day, and he said, let's go get Hedda Hopper's autograph. I said, I ain't got the nerve to go back, ask her. He said, I will. I said, okay. So back we went, knocked on her drawing room door, and who is it? Paul said, it's the trainman. We would like to have your autograph. She said, come on in, boys. In we went. She had her leg cocked up, pulling her stocking on. She was as down to earth as anybody. You wouldn't think that she was a celebrity. She talked quite a while to us, signed our autograph. I had the honor of having Queen Elizabeth from Camp Kilmer to Cranford, New Jersey. She had a 16-car train, and there was a 16-car train ahead of us with the press and some dignitaries onto it. Well, when they called me, I had a 12-hour call that I was going to be the conductor on Queen Elizabeth's train. And I took my camera along, and I walked back and forth on that train. I don't know how many times, hoping to see her so I could get her picture, but I didn't. And at Cranford, we had to leave the Lehigh Valley main line and go down in where we connected with the Staten Island Railroad. And there the Staten Island was taking the train to the boat side. And as the last car, which was the Baltimore and Ohio's official car, went by me, there sat Queen Elizabeth in the window. I was so dumbfounded, I forgot I had the camera. And I must say that I have never seen a picture of Queen Elizabeth that done her justice to what I saw in that window. She was a beautiful lady, and there was a red rose right in front of her. And she looked out, and she was smiling. She didn't wave or anything, but she was smiling. And there were a lot of people there. I had the privilege of working jobs in the Sayre, and I had quite a layover to get a train home. And I went through the shops. And fortunately, it was when there was some steam engines around yet. And boy, they'd have an engine that all tore apart. The wheels was down at that end of the shop. The boiler was up at this end of the shop, some in the middle. And I read in a book where the Lehigh Valley would turn out an engine completed, one every day. They had that many engines in the shop that they could do. Wanted to be one completed and released. When I got the job on the valley, and I told my dad, I said, I got a job breaking on the valley. He said, well, he said, you got a job on one of the best railroads in the country. And of course, he worked for the Lehigh and Hudson. But that was what he said to me. And it was really a family operation because, well, Tony's uncle worked on the valley. And Jim Riley's father, Jim Groove's father.
The Warley Father and Son Railroad.
Yep. When I hired out on the valley, I could not get insurance through an insurance company. It was considered too dangerous, so they wouldn't give you any insurance. So the brotherhoods went together and they made up an insurance company, and that's the only way we could get insurance.
Yeah, it was a high-risk job.
Yep. And the railroads years ago would would try to take care of a man if he got hurt on the railroad, got crippled for life. They would try to figure out some way to give him a job.
Who was
way.
that guy that had one arm that we worked with?
Yeah, I don't remember. His first name was Frank, but I can't remember his last name. He was riding a gondola car, and he had his arm inside hooked to hold himself. And something happened. They stopped real quick, and the steel slid down and cut his arm off. And boy, it was cut off real close to the shoulder. But they gave him a job as a section boss down at Oak Island.
I had an incident on the bell down. We were going to Martin's Creek run. I was backing down the yard, and I was passing signals to the engineer, and the boxcar between me and the engine was a little bit higher, and the engineer had a big headlight on the tank of the engine, which was shining back over the cars. And I walked up, was going to get in the higher car, and when I walked up there, I stepped right out between the two cars and landed down on the draw heads. And luckily I dove out, and the fireman saw me go, and he thought the train emergency. And when I got up to the engine, both shoestrings were split. I had work shoes on, and the shoestring busted wide open. I had to get string to tie my shoes on so I could work the rest of the night. I never lost a day's pay. My arms were tore here where I hit the steps going down. That was quite a job.
You worked the rest of that day, Tony.
Yeah.
You're a glutton for punishment.
Well, I was afraid of getting fired. I just started. Yeah, I never said anything at home either, because they'd have made me quit.
I was in three wrecks, 3 caboose wrecks. One was at Moose Head Curve. That's up near Whitehaven. And I was in one on the E&N branch where we had just engines and caboose, and the caboose jumped the track for some reason after we went over the crossing near Bushkill Park. And then I was in one that went in the Lehigh River near Catasauqua. Oh, you don't have to be on the engine to be in danger. But, the one boss told me, he said, "You don't know how lucky you are." He said, because the only thing that stopped that caboose from going any further into the river was a tree stump. It hit that tree stump and stopped, and Reds told me it was the deepest part of the Lehigh River in that one particular spot.
That was A.B. Fuhrer was on with you, wasn't
Yep, he saved my life.
Were you knocked out, or?
I was trapped. I was knocked out of the gig top, that cupola that's on the, knocked out of there down on the floor, and all of the crap come in on top of me. And I went from the gig top down and hit the stove and then onto the floor. And he got the stuff off of me, otherwise I'd have drowned. Because when I stood up, the water was here on me, and the caboose laid on her side. And there's something remarkable about that wreck. I'm a great believer. There was a window where my desk was, and there's 2 windows. And they put screens on the caboose, and they were made of heavy metal because it was around the times where the kids was throwing rocks at the caboose. And I had one man hurt with me one time, Davy Heller. somebody threw a rock and went through the caboose window and hit him. But the caboose that I had was my regular caboose from Allentown to Hazleton. And it had just come out of the shop, and there was screens. And in no way, shape, or form could me and the flagman get that one screen open. No way. We took chisels, we took hammers and everything. Well, when this wreck happened, the window in the gig top where I was riding, I had that open, but that window was not wide enough for a person to get out. And both doors in the caboose was jammed. We couldn't open them. Believe it or not, the only way we got out was through the window where the screen that we couldn't open, that screen was wide open. And that's the way we got out. Somebody had their hand on us. And I'm a great believer. Yeah, they used to say if an engineer was a fireman with his brains baked out from shoveling coal.
Yeah,
Right, Tony?
right. The 495 was the best steam engine I ever fired for. That was when I was firing. It was very easy to fire. And if you had a good engineer, you had like having a day off to fire that engine. Yeah.
How about the 388, Tony?
The one with the two fire doors?
Yeah.
You had to fire left and right-handed. That was quite a job. Sometimes I had to hold the door open and throw it in right-handed because I couldn't get it far up ahead left-handed. It's a big firebox. That was a good, strong engine, but a hard engine to fire.
They were a great saver to a fireman. They sat there and controlled the valves that fed the coal into the firebox, and instead of shoveling it.
But you had to have it set right or your coal would pile up in one section of the firebox. But if you had it set right, it was just like a pool room table, your fire was.
There was 5 jets, wasn't there, Tony?
Yeah,
3 in the back and 2 in the front.
yep.
Yeah, them T engines were nice.
I got a picture of an engine, a painting in my apartment. It's a 5126 we used to fire for. That was a beautiful engine. One of the best engines the Valley had.
Did Sticky start out as a call boy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Started out as a call boy. When you were a call boy, did some of them guys give you a rough time?
You mean
Some job they didn't want or something?
no, they give me a quarter. I got more off the boy than I did pay.
Oh, yeah?
I only got 26
How
cents.
about if they got a job they didn't want?
Give me a buck.
They tell you that, tell them that something.
Hand you a buck.
Yeah?
Then I got the old cruise special, turn my ass out. I got more money off the guys than I did. And when I was call boy and a young fella, I used to stand right in the bar with Russ Myers and that whole gang.
Yeah?
Right up with him, whiskey and a beer, 15 cents. Sticky, you gotta have one too. Oh,
They
Jesus.
give him a couple of bucks to keep, to say he wasn't there. Sticky used to do that.
Years ago, when we started, we could only work 16 hours. Later in life, they cut it down to 12 hours. If you worked 16 hours, you had to have 10 hours rest before you could go back to work. But if you worked 15 hours and 59 minutes, you could come out on 8 hours. There was lots of times we signed off.
I was just gonna tell them that. You signed off 1 minute short,
Short,
so So you didn't have to take 10 hours rest.
Yep.
You could come out on 8 hours. That's how hungry they were.
Went on in 1913 as a call boy, 7 cents an hour. Then I got the telephone operator for $1.50 a day. When I went fired, I got $2.50 a day in the yard.
That's for 10 hours?
No, 8
8
in
hours?
the yard, yeah. And then $3.20 a day for road jobs,
Yeah.
and $2.50 for a 100-mile pet. I got $9.90 a round trip to Sarah. $9.90.
That was fired.
I was fired.
Yeah.
And at the time I got $2.50 a day, and the engineer got $4.75. The nigger bender, I was fired for nigger bender, John Burns, and all them old timers, and that's okay. And then my highest wages of anything on the railroad was $12.8. But I guess I was on JB1 or one of them jobs, because up on 7, back on 4 was only $22.
Yeah.
But I was road foreman, I got $6.27 a month.